The NFC East is falling apart. Arthur Smith needs to be fired, and Justin Fields will soon be gainfully unemployed. A lot of stuff went on in Week 15 of the NFL season, and we're going to talk about most of it. But first, if you're here, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, helps grow the channel, it is greatly appreciated. But first out, the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football, going up against a Seattle Seahawks team with Drew Lock. Not even Geno Smith, Drew Lock, who apparently is putting it back on, but still. Embarrassing performance. That defense, which has been porous all year, weak against the pass, picked off Jalen Hurts twice. Ineffective through the air. The only way the Eagles offense can score is occasional spurts on the ground, and of course, the almighty tush push. The Eagles have now lost, 3 in a row, and are probably going to be the 5th seed. They have lost their chance at getting the NFC East title thanks to a loss to the Cowboys and now this most recent embarrassing loss. So the question is, are the Eagles frauds? Will the Eagles be that team we see every year, which starts red hot, but come playoff time, they've lost a few games in a row, they can get bounced in the wild card round? I don't think so, but it's definitely a concern. They still get to play the Bucs in the first round, which, no disrespect to Baker Mayfield, but he is not going to fare too well against that Eagles pass rush. That's still a pretty good part of their game. But still, it's concerning. I think this loss is enough for me to take them out of my clear top 2 in the NFC. Maybe not even my top 3 in the NFC, depending on how you want to think about the Lions indoors.
At this point, there's really only one team in the NFC, and that's the 49ers as far as true contenders heading into the playoffs. And when it comes to the playoff picture, I think the way the smart math people on Twitter, the way it works out...
Okay, smart people on Twitter is an oxymoron.
There's some truth to that statement. With that being said, if the Eagles win out and the Cowboys win out, however the math works out, it is most likely in all scenarios that the Eagles are the 2 seed. If they lose one more game, in all scenarios, even if the Cowboys lose one more game, the Cowboys will be the 2 seed. So however that math works out, that's how that goes. And when we take a look at this Eagles team and we look back on to how we viewed them prior to the season, everyone viewed them as one of the best teams or possibly the best team in the NFL with the best roster, with a great coaching staff, and they'd be right back where they were last season. And I think it was very underrated, the loss of Shane Gannon to the Cardinals and the loss of Shane Steichen to the Colts. Because you take a look at those two organizations and what they've done on each side of the ball. The Cardinals defense, they don't have a lot of talent, but they've been, plucky good here and there.
Plucky. They've been functional.
They've been functional. They've been better than we expected. The Colts, they're right in the thick of things in the AFC with Shane Steichen. He has been dominating. When it was Anthony Richardson early in the season, he was very good. Now Gardner Minshew, he's been very good. So losing those 2 coordinators were key parts of the Eagles' success last season, and we're seeing that maybe Nick Sirrianni is not all that great as a head coach. He clearly has lost creativity. That went out the window when Shane Steichen went to Indianapolis. Now it's the Eagles' offense has become incredibly predictable. They're just going to try and run the ball a couple times, get it to third and short, do the tush push. Occasionally they'll throw some play action. There's no more motion at all in their game plan. And when their offense is not able to just dominate people based off their pure talent, because their offense is extremely talented, they have the talent to beat anyone. When they're not winning on pure talent, that's when everything goes out the window and it opens up the door for Drew Lock to drive down the field and beat you on a game-winning drive. So the Eagles, and also when you have Matt Patricia, when you have to rely on him.
We're getting another rant about the coordinators now. Wrap it up. We'll talk about Patricia in a second. Let me respond.
Okay, you want to respond?
I want to respond.
You need to interject and cut me off?
I mean, you said okay, and then saying one more thing. Oh, wait a second.
Okay, you can
the
go.
The former Detroit Lions head coach, very respectful individual, Matt Patricia. No. Here's the thing. The Eagles' offense can't out-talent people. I think it's more so an out-physical thing than a talent thing. That offensive line has been paving the way for him all year. But Father Time is calling on Lane Johnson and our good pal Travis Kelce's brother. That has slowed them down a little bit. Kelce will still be an all-pro Pro Bowl type guy. Same with Johnson. But they're definitely worse than they were last season. There are better right tackles and there are better centers in the NFL than those guys. That's playing a part of it. The run game not being as good. DeAndre Swift doesn't know how to read gaps. I don't know what else to tell you on that. That is hurting their overall offense. I don't know if I'd call Sirianni a bad coach. I think you were trying to dance around and imply. He's similar to what Dan Campbell is. He is a great motivator. He gets his guys fired up. He gets Big Dom fired up on the sideline. And if you're doing play calling, dude, you should be a little bit better. But the Eagles offense hasn't been bad. It just hasn't been the best in the NFL or maybe even a top 5 offense in the NFL. Still been very functional, still been putting up points. they're just not quite as good as they used to be.
I would disagree with most of what you said. I think it really comes down to their inability on offense to move the ball comes down to lack of creativity. And you said you threw a little shade at DeAndre Swift there. He's been better and more productive than Miles Sanders was last season. He has been very good in the role that he has been given. So I think to put some blame on him, I think is a little ridiculous, especially with how good Jalen Hurts has been playing off of that in the quarterback run game. So I think there's basically zero creativity, and they have the talent. And you said Jason Kelce, or in your case you threw shade and said Travis Kelce's brother, and Lane Johnson have lost a step.
I'll throw some more shade. Taylor Swift's boyfriend's brother.
Okay. I don't think they've really lost a step. I think it purely comes down to the play calling isn't quite what it was last year. They still have A.J. Brown. They still have Devonta Smith. They still have a very good running back in DeAndre Swift. The play calling isn't as good, and maybe you could say Jalen Hurts has been banged up a bit, so he's run for a lot of yards, but he hasn't been quite what he was last season, you could maybe say. But I don't think you could really say like those players
they've been worse. I mean, I don't know why this is a big question. They're no longer the best at their respective positions in the NFL. Part of that's Penei Sewell getting better at right tackle and Creed Humphrey further establishing himself. But I feel if you watch the offensive line, you can tell it's not quite the same. They're still very good. Again, they'll still be second-team All-Pros, but they're no longer going to be at the absolute pinnacle of their field, which really did do the Eagles a lot of favors last season. They're probably also not going to have 5 offensive linemen go to the Pro Bowl again.
Let me put it this way. A slightly diminished offensive line play is not the primary reason for this Eagles team struggling compared to what we saw last season.
Well, there are other reasons,
it'd be like the 7th or 8th reason. The defensive secondary is the biggest reason.
I mean, we're talking about the offense here. I'd agree with you. The secondary got worse, and the pass rush has not been as good as it was last season. But I think we're getting dragged down into the minutia of the conversation. We both agree that the Eagles are a worse team this year. You want to blame Sirrianni to a certain extent, which still a good coach. I don't think anyone's disputing that.
It's not blaming him. It's the fact that they don't have a head coach that is the play caller or offensive genius like we see now with Shane Steichen on the Colts, or the Giants don't have a lot of wins, but Brian Daboll on the Giants. They don't have, and I think that can work. What Sirianni is works, but clearly they lost something when Shane Steichen went out the door and Shane Gannon on defense left.
It could also be our Pookie, Mr. Perfect Jalen Hurts is in fact battling a minor case of the cold. That has been made a big story. You're not considering that during this 3-game stretch. Shout out to Drew Lock, man. Anyway, you got anything else you want to say about the Eagles? Can we talk about the other NFC East team?
We can talk about the other failures.
How about them Cowboys? I love talking about the Cowboys. Got my hat on and everything. So Tristan said, the Cowboys' better defense going to dominate the Buffalo Bills. Clearly was not aware the type of man James Cook is, the real cook in the family. Lord knows it's not Dalvin. Serving up a crisp 200-some yards from scrimmage against that Cowboys defense. Josh Allen barely did anything. Who cares? He did enough to win. He managed that game exceptionally well. He provided a lot of threats to that defense with his legs and his arm. He is the reason those lanes opened up for Cook. But the Bills offense barbecued the Cowboys defense. And in response, that Cowboys offense, which you said was going to torment an injured Bills defense, did nothing. 0-zip, nada, 10 points. Looked dysfunctional. This game in and of itself is what has eliminated Dak Prescott from the MVP conversation. A bad blow to all of us who don't want to see Brock Purdy win. And my response to this is it's not to diminish the Cowboys or anything. You can have bad games against good teams, but I think it's pretty clear the Bills mean business. Ever since those comments came out about a certain event which happened in September of 2001, the Bills have been on fire. They've rallied around Sean McDermott. They said, no, you're not going to fire our coach. You're not going to scapegoat our coach. We haven't been playing well, and we are going to rise to the occasion. They've beaten the Chiefs, knocked them off the top spot in the AFC. Now they've beaten the Cowboys, made sure they will not claim the top spot in the AFC. This Buffalo Bills team is legit. Imagine if Josh Allen got it going through the air last evening. Imagine if he didn't rely so much on the run. This Bills offense at full potential can outscore everybody. And I'm just very happy as a Bills supporter, not a fan, but a supporter, that they are doing this towards the end of the season when it matters most. This is the time to get hot. It is better to do what the Bills are doing now and getting hot towards the end than doing what the Eagles did at the start of the year and winning a bunch of games only to taper off towards the final month of the season. I am very happy for the Buffalo Bills. They are a legit team. I don't care if they don't win the AFC East. I don't care if they're a wild card. They are a threat in the AFC and could be coming for the Super Bowl.
Well, unless they win out, they basically have to win out to make the playoffs at this point, the way the math works out.
I mean, do you really think the Bills team who just beat the Chiefs and the Cowboys in back-to-back weeks is going to be worried by their remaining schedule?
Regardless of the remaining schedule, and they will have to play the Dolphins in the last week, which is the big game and could decide the AFC East. There are two major takeaways. There's one I have for each team. On the Cowboys side of things, the reason I felt so strongly about them heading into this game is that they were taking care of business against bad teams and blowing them out of the water. It didn't even look like the other team deserved to be an NFL team. So that's why when I looked at the Cowboys, I had more faith in them than I did a team like the Lions, who were in a similar situation. They were winning a lot at home, but they weren't as quite dominant as the Cowboys were when they were playing at home, and then they would also struggle on the road. Now this Cowboys game, it's having me put them in a similar category I have the Lions. If they get to play at home, they are going to be dominant. They can beat anyone in the NFL. The 49ers, that'll be a close game if the Cowboys played them at home. It's not going to happen now. Let me finish my point. You always interject.
Just let me interject this for a little bit.
You interject every time I talk.
It is agreeing with your point. The Lions only play well in nice weather. That's part of your point, right?
It's a home game.
I'm saying no. They've played well on the road in domes though. If they have to go on the road, there is no better place to go if it's going to be outside than in San Francisco in January. That will be nice weather too. I don't think it's an at-home thing. I think it's a they can't pass the ball in the cold or the rain thing.
Well, the Cowboys is certainly an at-home thing because you take a look at their record. I think they're if you take out like the Giants, the two times they beat the Giants this year.
Which don't count.
You know, those
Mickey Mouse, even though one of us predicted they'd win both games.
I think they're 1-4 in home games if you take out those games. So they are bad at home. Dak Prescott, whether you want to put more blame on Dak Prescott or more blame on Mike McCarthy, their offense is not nearly what it is on the road as when it's at home. So this game has caused me to put them into that Lions category. I still think they're better than the Lions because they've just looked so good at home, but it would be nice to see them beat a different above 500 team outside of the Eagles.
The Cowboys also have a defense, which is something the Lions cannot say.
There's that. Now, when it comes to the Bills, my major takeaway is changing the offensive coordinator has done wonders because this is what we've wanted to see from the Bills for years, is develop a run game with their running back in order to win these types of games where they don't need to win off the strength of Josh Allen running the ball or the strength of Josh Allen throwing the ball 35 times a game. So the fact that with Joe Brady at offensive coordinator and the fact that they were able to get a 200-plus yard game from James Cook is incredible. It gives me a lot more confidence in their ability to keep winning than compared if they just got out by the skin of their teeth, even in a multi-score game because Josh Allen was Superman. This was a game where Josh Allen didn't have to be Superman. James Cook and that offensive line actually took over the game in the run game for once, and it led to the Bills' victory. So from that standpoint, I think it's really encouraging for the Bills, but I do still think there's some concerns with that defense, and there's some... It'll be interesting to see them come playoff time. I don't have full faith restored, but those things are really encouraging.
I mean, everyone else besides, of course, you think the Ravens in the AFC is a fraud, so why not pick the team which could conceivably finish the season 4-1, 5-0, and sneak into the playoffs as a wild card or 4th-seed division winner? Buy in now, man. That's what I'm telling you. Buy in now. Buy into the O'Cyrus Torrence, James Cook experience up front. I am very happy about that O'Cyrus Torrence pick, by the way. Wanted the Vikings to get him, replace some of their inept guard play. I'm okay with Jordan Addison. But that O'Cyrus Torrence pick, he is just a monster. As the season has gone on, he has become maybe the best rookie guard in the NFL. Big fan of that big fella's work. Anyway, on to a young player who was selected by the Chicago Bears who has not quite worked out, who has continued to perform below expectations, and now, for the second year of a row, we are talking about replacing Justin Fields in the offseason. And of course, the Bears fans who watch the game through the tinted glass will say, no, it's everybody else's fault. It's the skill player's fault. It's the coach's fault. It's the offensive line's fault. It can't be our dear, sweet Justin Fields' fault. And, to a certain extent, I'm kind of with him. Justin Fields is not in a good situation. And all year, I have pounded the table and said, look at Bryce Young and Zach Wilson. They're in terrible spots. You can't expect that much from them. But Justin Fields is making his offensive line look worse than they actually are. They are getting blitzed a ton because Justin Fields holds on to the ball too long, can't make quick reads, and that's why you're seeing the sack numbers you're seeing. Justin Fields is making a lot of his receivers look worse, with the exception of DJ Moore, who he is force-feeding the ball, and it is working by all means, not taking that away from him. He does not throw great passes to many of his other guys. Komet occasionally gets some underthrown balls, and then you have the occasional play, which lets the Bears fans say, no, we're justifying it. We're saying it's everyone else's fault. Oh, you're upset that Mooney did not catch the Hail Mary play, which he has no business being in the first place because it was bad to him on the ground. You're upset a wide receiver dropped an open pass deep. Big deal. That's happened to every other quarterback this year. Josh Allen has had his receivers drop balls deep. You only hear people saying, oh, he shouldn't be accountable for his picks. Patrick Mahomes had so many drop issues this year, it isn't even funny. Joe Burrow had drop issues with the Bengals before he got hurt. All the elite quarterbacks are dealing with similar things, yet it's only a big excuse for Justin Fields. If you have the opportunity to draft Caleb Williams or Drake May, I think you move off him. You have a franchise-level quarterback who looks a lot more NFL ready than your guy who's been in the NFL for 3 years. If you're in a position to draft a quarterback that high, and I know it's the Panthers' pick, but they're also, 5th, 6th overall in the draft? It's not like they're exactly playing themselves out of that pick. They are still a bad team, and to be frank, the most important part of that is the quarterback. It's time to roll things over. New coach, new quarterback.
I think Bears fans often, or people that are super Justin Fields fans, often ignore flaws within Justin Fields' game because he does hold the ball too long. He has a tendency to create sacks that shouldn't be there. He fumbles sometimes when a different quarterback would not fumble, and he hands the ball over to the defense. And he maybe doesn't process at an elite level like some other quarterbacks. With that being said, I think when you take a look at the Bears draft this year, they're going to have the number 1 overall pick via the Panthers. They need to fix the coaching situation and the offensive coordinator. I just let you talk for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And you always cut me off.
The Panthers are playing themselves out of that number 1 overall pick.
They're going to have the first overall pick via the Panthers, of course putting them in position to draft any quarterback they want, but they need to get the offensive coordinator or head coach situation figured out so they can properly develop a quarterback. Because if you believe that Caleb Williams is a much better prospect overall because you believe he processes at a better level, and you think he's just a better athlete than Justin Fields, fine. If you feel the same way about Drake May, very different player, fine. But when you look at what Justin Fields has been brought up in, Luke Getsy reportedly going to get fired at the end of the season, even if the head coach stays the same. So the offensive coordinator is switching again. When Justin Fields entered the NFL as a rookie, the offensive coordinator situation was not good. Same thing, was playing with multiple different head coaches, not brought up in a system with much talent around him, with a good offensive mind. And we see what like a Shane Steichen does with Indianapolis, with Anthony Richardson early in the year, and then Gardner Minshew. If you bring and place Caleb Williams in that Bears offense, I don't think it's a solution right away, because I like Caleb Williams. But if you look at Caleb Williams' weaknesses, especially in his senior year, holds on to the ball a little bit too long, tends to play hero ball too long. Maybe he's a better quarterback than Justin Fields, but his weaknesses are the exact same. And if you place him into the same situation, you're going to have people complaining about the same exact thing. So I would lean towards the Bears replacing him with their pick of the litter when it comes to quarterback with the first overall pick. I just don't think it's out of the picture that they stick with Justin Fields and maybe even trade the pick, because there's certain other things they need to figure out before they place another rookie through that constant revolving door.
Well, you can't fix your coaching issues in the draft. I would posit this situation to you. You pick Caleb Williams first overall. You pick a tackle with the pick you actually have earned, the 5th or 6th overall pick, to pair with the banger of a pick they had last year at offensive tackle. You now have the tackle situation figured out. You have a franchise quarterback, and you've got him thrown to DJ Moore and Cole Kmet, who I'm told is very good. And then you talk to Caleb Williams. You maybe say, hey, if you can get Lincoln Riley to come to the NFL, come coach in Chicago, we will fire Eberflus, and we will let you have a run litter. You wouldn't take Caleb Williams, Lincoln Riley, and an elite offensive tackle over whatever they can get in their current situation. Because I'm going to be honest, I don't think any really young, promising coaching prospect, if given another choice, will go to the Chicago Bears to go play in Soldier Field where the weather is cold and the offense is slow and say, yeah, I'm going to work with Justin Fields, who has failed unequivocally the first 3 years of his career. And just speaking of last game, Joe Flacco threw 3 interceptions, had one of the 5 worst games of his career, and was clearly the best quarterback on the field. There is something to be said about that.
I think it has more to do with the decision making and play calling, because you take a look at the Bears and they should have beat the Lions and they should have beat the Browns now, putting them at 6 wins, which would put them right in the middle of the NFC playoff picture. So they are right there to being a playoff team in the NFC with how bad the NFC is after the top 2 to 3 teams.
Going right into my take that Justin Fields is, of course, undefeated in hypothetical situations.
And if you look at how good the offense has been since Justin Fields came back, in those 2 games, give those 2 wins to them, you don't have the play calling what it was, and I have a point to make about that in a second. Assuming those things are fixed and they win those games, they're undefeated since he came back from injury. So I don't think Justin Fields is quite as bad as his haters think he is, and I don't think he's quite as good as I think Bears fans ignore his weaknesses when they evaluate Justin Fields in his future.
You're right to call Bears fans things. They are barely people. They are a little bit subhuman. If your quarterback has played you into the first overall pick or in the territory of first overall pick 2 years in a row, when the quarterback is the only position which gets to win MVP anymore, which is clearly the most valuable position in football, you can say, oh, it's a team sport, but no team with a bad quarterback is going to find themselves in the playoffs. At the very, very worst, it's good rosters with mediocre quarterbacks. I think you got to move on. You just can't be tied to this guy anymore. Do you really want to miss out on this quarterback class, which is the best we've seen in a long time, to hold on to Justin Fields and see what you get next year? Oh, well, we got the 12th overall pick. Maybe we can take Quinn Ewers this time and have him be our franchise guy. I'm not sold.
Well, I do think they're going to wind up taking a quarterback, because I think they're going to look at Justin Fields and a potential contract coming up for him soon, because if he plays as good at his best next season, then you wind up in a Daniel Jones situation where you have 1 good year of above average quarterback play, and you feel like you have to give him a contract. And I think they're going to look at the ability to get a rookie quarterback. There's going to be a team out there, whether it be the Falcons or someone else, that give you a second-round pick for him, that think he's someone who can enhance their offense. There's going to be a team out there. I think that's what is most likely to happen. I just think these last 3 games, and looking at how maybe Justin Fields' weaknesses are similar to Caleb Williams' weaknesses, I think maybe that could lead them to stick with Fields. I don't think that's the most likely scenario, but I think it's a possibility.
You really just pissed off every Chicago Bears fan who was still listening. They probably turned it off a while ago with that, oh, you're going to be in a Daniel Jones situation. They are not going to like the Justin Fields Daniel Jones comparison at all.
The comparison
I get what you mean, but the Bears fans have got small brains. They're just going to see the 2 names next to each other and think, ooh. The difference between Caleb Williams and Justin Fields, one, Caleb Williams is not as good of a runner, still a very good scrambler, much better thrower on the move, but he can also operate a short yardage game, hit his reads on time, throw checkdowns, keep the offense ahead of schedule. Justin Fields can't do that.
I think, again, the play calling and head coaching situation and organizational culture hasn't exactly been conducive to developing a quarterback.
What, the culture of having to fire 2 of your assistant coaches and trading for Trace Claypool has not been conducive to success? I'm shocked. Matt Eberflus, King Poles does it again, ladies and gentlemen. The elite Chicago Bears culture. And speaking of coaching changes and culture, how about this Arthur Smith guy? In the rain against the Carolina Panthers, when you've got a decent offensive line and the 7th overall pick, or whatever Bijan was in the draft, let's give Tyler Algier 3 times as many carries at him. Let's not throw to our tight end. Let's not throw to our 6'5" wide receiver who makes contested catches. Let's force feed Jonnu Smith. Let's not do any design quarterback runs. Let's make Desmond Ridder drop back to pass and tsunami. Let's do all those things. And then when we lose, let's bench Desmond Ridder for Taylor Heineke. Like that's going to make a difference. Like we didn't already do this stupid little song and dance earlier in the season. I am not often going to advocate for a coach getting fired in the middle of the year. I think Staley got a bad rap at points. This man is gone. He should have been gone halfway through the year. It's unfortunate. It's using Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson as decoys on the goal line so you can throw to your fourth-string tight end type unfortunate. It's bad football. It hurts the soul. Your mind decays. Your eyes melt watching the Atlanta Falcons offense. Defense is all right, though.
When it comes to their offense, I get Arthur Smith's logic, and you can see this logic utilized on other teams to use your best player as decoys to get big plays to some of the players that maybe aren't quite as talented, but can still do something when they get the ball in their hands. I get that. You want to get Cordell Patterson the ball here. You want to get Jonnu Smith the ball here. But at the end of the day, if you're going to win football at a consistent level in the NFL, at any level, whether it be college football or even rec football, you need to get your best players the ball if you want to win. The fact that Tyler Algier had more carries than Bijan Robinson is ridiculous. The fact that Jonnu Smith has more targets and more catches than Drake London and Kyle Pitts, although I think Kyle Pitts is a little overrated. The fact he has more targets and more catches than them is ridiculous. Your best players still need to win in one-on-one scenarios. They need to be the ones getting the ball. You need to use Bijan Robinson. You use him the 8th overall pick on him. There's maybe the only argument you can maybe make there is maybe Arthur Smith hates fantasy football. So after 4 weeks of Bijan Robinson scoring close to 20 points a game,
hey, he's playing Bijan Robinson in his fantasy playoffs right now.
That could be a possibility too. Maybe
he drafted Jonnu Smith in the 4th round. Said we are going to make this pick work, and he's made it work. We're not seeing the vision here. There is a $100,000 buy-in league Arthur Smith is in right now, where he has Jonnu Smith as his number one offensive threat. He said, oh, gotta feed Jonnu. His rivals, they got Bijan, they got Drake London, he's got Tyler Algier. He said, I know what I'm gonna do. He's gonna make millions of dollars off this.
Bijan fumbled. He's playing Bijan in the playoffs. Fumbles, he's like, okay, good. He lost points here. I can't leave him in any longer. I need to win. I'm playing my son in fantasy this week.
Well, son-in-law. The son-in-law is the worst part. The son, you can tolerate. You can have the next generation's fast forward. You hate your son-in-law, though. I don't know a single father who likes his son-in-law, particularly if it's an adult son-in-law. Ugh.
You have a son-in-law?
I'm not married, but there have been some unfortunate attempted entrapments, which I have been able to skillfully avoid. We don't live the same life, Tristan.
I see that.
All right, where are we going with this?
That has been this week's podcast. Subscribe, like the video. It helps out the channel. Use code Thicc if you want to on Underdog Fantasy. That helps support us. It doubles your first deposit up to $100, and we will see you in the next podcast.
Thicc with 2 C's, ladies and gentlemen, not thick with the K. Only losers spell thick with the K.